You just look like you're trying to be American
All right,
and
we are
Pakistani.
live.
Islam in the West. Bismillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, everybody. Today, we're going to do another episode of insights from Dr. Samerai's, I believe this is still the first chapter, where he talks about nouns and verbs, and he talks about singular and plural. We talked about sky and skies yesterday, if you recall. So I'm going to pick up on the sky and skies discussion. Which one is bigger when the word single sama is used, or samawat, skies? Do you remember?
Sama.
Sama is bigger, right? Because it's everything that lies above, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to keep that in mind as we talk about the ayat today. And these are two places in the Quran where Allah says something similar. He talks about the vastness of heaven, the vastness of Jannah. Okay, one of those belongs to Surah Al-Imran, and the other belongs to Surah Al-Hadid, Surah number 57. I give khutbah about Surah Al-Hadid this last week. So let's look at the ayat, and I'll show you where the comparison lies. So can you show the screen, Jawad? A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I'll translate rather quickly. This is ayah number 133 onwards of the third surah, Al-Imran. Yeah? وَسَارِعُوا إِلَى مَغْفِرَةٍ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ. And rush, this word is what? Rush to forgiveness. Because sur'a means rushing, quickness. So rush to forgiveness from your master. وَجَنَّةٍ, and towards a heaven. عَرْضُهَا السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضُ, whose size is the skies and the earth combined. So Jannah is the size of all seven heavens and the earth combined. That's how big Jannah is. أُعِدَّتْ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, which has been prepared for people that are cautious, that protect themselves. The people who protect themselves, who are these people who protect themselves? They are the ones who spend, and يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ, when things are easy and when things get difficult. So they're charitable when things are easy, and they're charitable when things are difficult. وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ, and they are the ones suppressing anger. And you can also say swallowing anger. Also saying, rechanneling anger. وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ, and these are people that are pardoning others, pardoning people, meaning forgiving them lovingly without holding a grudge. وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ, and Allah loves those who excel, and those who, meaning the muttaqeen who Jannah has been prepared for. So far, there are three qualities. They spend when it's easy to spend, when they got money, and they're also spending in charity when it's hard for them to spend. Yeah, that was the first thing. The second thing was they're able to control their anger and channel it in a healthy way. The third was they're forgiving of people. And then he adds, and those who, when they have done something shameless, or they have wronged themselves in any other way, they immediately remember Allah. And they ask forgiveness for their sins. And who's going to forgive sins if not Allah? وَمَن يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَلَمْ يُصِرُّوا عَلَى مَا فَعَلُوا, and they don't insist on what they had done, meaning they don't keep going back on what they did. وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ, and while they do so knowingly. So there's a few qualities of people who will make it to Jannah. He says, first of all, rush towards it, to this forgiveness. It's been prepared for muttaqeen. And who are these muttaqeen? They're charitable, they control their anger, they're forgiving of people, they immediately recognize when they do something wrong, they ask Allah's forgiveness, and they don't lose hope in Allah's forgiveness, and they don't become addicted to making the same mistake over and over again. There's quite a few qualities. If you have these qualities, then you are rushing towards heaven, right? So that's one place. This is Surah Al-Hadid. This is Surah number 57. Something similar is being said. But instead of sari'u, what do we find here? Sabiqu. Sabiqu comes from sabaqa. And sabaqa yusabiqu sibaqan wa musabaqatan, like the Jahada family. Yeah. These are both Jahada family, by the way. This actually means race. It doesn't mean rush, it means race. Race to forgiveness from your master. And race to a heaven. Similar to the other one, except that one was what? Rush to it. And this one is race to it. Whose size, this one also talked about the size of heaven. And what did it say about the size of heaven this time? Jannatin arduha as-samawatu wal-ardu. Arduha was the mubtada, and as-samawatu wal-ardu was the khabar, right? Whose size is the skies and the earth. Here, instead of عرضها السماوات والأرض, you have عرضها كعرض السماء والأرض. Whose side? The ka is a bata, kaf, lam, wa. It's a harf jari. Yeah? So this becomes a muta'alliq bil khabar. عرضها is mubtada, the first rafa, and this is the muta'alliq bil khabar, right? So it's a little bit different. Let me translate for those of you that are not technical. And I know we geek out a little bit because these kids are put a few hours into them. Okay, so عرضها, whose size is something like the size of the sky and the earth. Something like the size of the sky and the earth. Okay? أُعِدَّتْ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرُسُلِهِ. Do you already notice a difference? So the first difference was race. The second difference is like, because the like wasn't used before. The third difference is instead of skies, it just says sky. Then he says, it has been prepared. This one also says, أُعِدَّتْ, it has been prepared. But it has been prepared for who? لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, with a bunch of qualities. This time it's أُعِدَّتْ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرُسُلِهِ. It has been prepared for those who've believed in Allah and His messengers. ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ, that is the favor of Allah. يُؤْتِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ, He gives it to whoever He wants. وَاللَّهُ ذُو الْفَضْلِ الْعَظِيمِ, and Allah is the possessor of the ultimate favor. Okay, so there are some interesting differences. So let's make a note of those differences. So there's an Ali Imran. Well, let me make a table so we can observe these differences. So this is surah number 3, and this is surah number 57. And I don't know why the table is... Okay, it got normal. Okay. So this one says... I'll make it a little smaller. This one says Sari'u, which means rush. Actually, let me format the whole thing to a font that stays normal. 26 should be okay. Okay. This should be good. Okay. Sari'u. This one said Sabiqu, which is race. Okay. This one said As-Samawat wal-Ard. What does that mean?
The skies and the earth.
The skies and earth. I'm being brief, so let's skip the so we can write brief. Skies and earth. 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 Okay. And this one says what? As-Sama, or actually ka عرض السماء والأرض, which means
sky,
like the sky and earth. So there's a like added that wasn't there, and like the size of, like the This is arduha. Like the size of. We should add here size of sky and earth. Okay, so it's a little bit different. Then here he said al-muttaqin, and so the cautious and self-protective. And what were some qualities you remember? These people?
The people who forgive others without holding
That's
back.
a little later.
Who give in charity when times are good and
give
bad.
When easy or hard.
Yeah.
Right? That was one. Okay, what else?
They forgive. They have patience. They swallow their anger.
Temper control.
Also, what else?
And once they're able to control their temper, they're able to what with people?
Forgive people.
Forgive people. But you still with us, or are you in the skies and the earth?
Yeah.
Okay. And then when they do something wrong.
They seek forgiveness, and they don't insist on the bad action that they
when they mess up. They immediately remember Allah. Don't insist on the same pattern of behavior. Right? There's quite a few descriptions. On this side, he said, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا billahi wa rusulihi.
Those who believe in Allah
So
and
believed
His messengers.
in Allah and His messengers. That's the favor of Allah. He gives it to us. No further descriptions.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to make this a little smaller so we get a bird's eye view. This is better. Okay. So let's first talk about the difference between rushing and racing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm rushing to work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm rushing to brush my teeth. I'm rushing to get changed. I'm rushing to get to the car. Rush, rush, rush. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm racing to work. So somebody rushing on the highway
Mm-hmm.
and somebody racing on the highway, who do you imagine is driving faster? Someone who's rushing, clearly driving fast,
Yeah.
but somebody who's racing.
Racing.
Definitely. Because when you're racing, you're trying to outdo each other.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we're then saying is this one is more intense.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
This is more intense. And it gets you wherever you're getting to faster.
Mm-hmm.
Got it?
Yeah.
That's one difference. Okay. The skies and the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Skies is plural.
Yes.
We talked about that yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And sky singular means all that lies above.
Yeah.
Which one do you think is broader?
Sky.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It is. And because it cannot include everything above, because there's also the Arsh of Allah and all of that, but still broader.
Mm-hmm.
This one is faster, and this one's also broader. Okay? Now, by the way, when someone's rushing,
Mm-hmm.
they're kind of, there's a sense
of worry.
Yeah, there's a sense of worry, but there's also lesser sense of awareness of others.
Mm-hmm.
So this, in a sense, is like lonelier.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, when you're racing, you're aware of where everybody else is. Man, I'm like ahead of all those guys.
Yeah.
So there's a sense of, there's an awareness of others.
Yeah.
There's a togetherness.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you're racing each other, there's a sense of I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, al-muttaqin, people who are
believers,
not just believers, they are cautious, self-protective. Mm-hmm. Is everybody who's Muslim cautious and self-protective? No. And then, is everybody who's cautious and self-protective necessarily someone who spends when it's easy and hard?
Mm-hmm.
And are there people who are cautious, self-protective, and spend when it's easy and hard, and control their temper?
No.
Is that even more people or lesser people that have all these qualities together?
Lesser people.
And what about people that are cautious, self-protective, spend easy and hard when it's hard, control their temper, and are very forgiving of others? Is that even more people or lesser people?
Lesser people.
Well, that's even lesser people. And then on top of all of that, these are the kind of people that when they mess up, they immediately ask Allah for forgiveness and they don't insist on their behavior. So the more qualities you add, the group keeps getting
smaller,
keeps getting more exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, it keeps getting smaller. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But go to the other side. He said it's been prepared for those who've believed in Allah and His messengers.
Yeah.
It's not those who believed in Allah and His messengers and prayed, did Hajj, fasted, those who controlled their temper, gave charity. No other qualities. Mm-hmm. Only qualification is what? They believed in Allah and His messengers. So there are more qualifications here,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Which makes this harder.
Yeah.
And that's why the group is smaller.
Yeah.
And that's why less people make the tryouts.
This is like Ivy League.
Kind of like Ivy League.
Yeah.
Right? And this one seems like, so long as you're registered, you can sign up.
Yeah.
Is like in a marathon, there are people that come in. Man, I came in 197th. I'm really proud of myself. You're still proud of yourself because you're still part of the what? Marathon.
Yeah.
Right? But this is like the first 4 people that made it. And this is like, oh my God, I'm still in it. I'm still in it. I'm still, there's these people. There's a difference. So this is the much lesser requirements. So do you think this is more people or less people?
More people.
This is way more people. Right?
Yeah.
But then also pay attention, and it says, it doesn't say believe in Allah and His Messenger. It says believe in Allah and His messengers, plural. Rusulihi.
Yeah.
You know what that means? That means that it doesn't even have to be the followers of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It could be at the time of Musa alayhi salam. They didn't believe in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They only believed in Musa alayhi salam. So it's starting to include people of the past. The people of the time of Musa, the people at the time of Isa, the people at the time of Nuh, the people at the time of Saleh and Shu'aib, and all those people who believed in their messengers too are now being included. But over here, it was all present tense. So it's people we're talking about, they're people at the time of the Prophet and right now.
Yeah.
So there's lesser requirements, and it includes believers in previous times.
Yeah.
With previous prophets. Which makes this even more people. People that are around now and people that lived a long time ago have all been included. So what observations are we making then overall? In Surah number 57, there's a bigger togetherness. And it's a race that's much more included. Then the sky seems to be talking about a broader sky.
Yeah.
And then the people are also a broader group of people. And here things start getting more exclusive. Someone who rushes on their own is driven on their own. They don't have to look at someone else to race. They're, like in psychology, we learn about people that are like always, the only time they get serious is when they look at somebody else. Right? So for example, let's just imagine that Maryam got an A on her math and you got a B on your math test, right? And now your mission in life became to get an A because Maryam got an A, and there ain't no way you're going to leave Maryam with that A to give you that look. Can you give him that look? That look? Yeah, that look. There's no way, because now you're racing. Now you're doing what? Racing. But then there's a kind of person who you don't know what Maryam got or not. You want an A. You're not in a race with anybody else. You're in a race with yourself. You're self-motivated, almost like you're not aware of anybody else. And it doesn't even matter to you, right? So there's a different mentality over here. These are lesser people. Most people have a sense of competition, yeah?
Yeah. So
this is a broader group to begin with. And these people are being talked about in a more exclusive kind of heaven. It's a restricted size because it's a restricted group.
Yeah.
And then their qualities are more restrictive. And here, Allah opened it up far bigger. This is like a marathon. A lot of people can jump in. And the sky has got it's just everything that lies above. And anybody who believes has a chance to get into this race, right? So in which one, because there's a larger chance for you to make it to heaven. In one of them, like Allah is being far more generous and opening the doors wider to heaven in one of these than the others. Which one?
Sama.
It's almost like he's opening this one up much wider, isn't he?
Yeah.
Right? So he says, this is the beautiful part. This is Surah number 57. He says something here he did not say here. He says something here. He says, ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ يُؤْتِيهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ وَاللَّهُ ذُو الْفَضْلِ الْعَظِيمِ. That is the favor of Allah. He grants it to whoever He wants. And Allah possesses the ultimate favor. Do you notice how Allah has done us a bigger favor in this ayah anyway?
Yeah.
Right? And then He adds at the end, that is the favor of Allah. Look at how perfectly the words are chosen between this ayah and that ayah. How everything starts corresponding to the larger point that's being made in two different surahs, two different places.
Time periods, yeah.
Yep. And so this is the kind of like subtle thing that happens in one place and the other. And those of you that are hufal that maybe sometimes get confused between arduha ka'ard as-sama, is it sabi'u or is it sabiqu or sari'u, then this might help you. This might help you, remember which goes where. Because you can now notice everything fits together with a set of words here, and everything else fits together with a set of words here. So that was our little appreciation of Allah. And by the way, the larger lesson we learned from these ayat is that there are people that want the highest heavens and the most exclusive rewards from Allah, right? And those are people that are going to be driven to rush to seek that forgiveness from Allah Azza wa Jal. And then there are people who need a community. They need a sense of motivation, and they need to see somebody else that's doing good and say, man, they're doing good. I can do that too. Like some of you will be like, wow, my cousin's learning Arabic. I can learn it too. Yeah. Right? Oh, wow. Wait, seriously? You didn't know anything and now you know stuff? That means I can do it too. So you're joining the race, right? So some people, they're not driven entirely on their own. They need a sense of community, and that's okay. And that's a favor of Allah that He provided us that. And Allah's mercy is vast. And He only mentioned, it's so merciful of Allah that He only mentioned faith here. They have faith in Allah and their messengers. Obviously, to get into heaven, you don't just believe, you pray also, you do good deeds also. But what did Allah do? He encouraged people to work towards heaven by just saying, at least you have faith, so you have hope. You have hope, get started. And when you develop your faith and you have a sense of hope and you start learning about the race, then you realize maybe this faith is going to make me pray. It's going to make me do, leave some bad habits. So you're going to start taking those steps on your own. And it's a mercy of Allah that He didn't intimidate the beginner by adding steps here in the beginning. He just said, so long as you believe. It's not to misconstrue and say, oh, you just have to believe and you don't have to do anything and you'll make it into heaven. No, you clearly have to do something, because race is mentioned in the beginning, and race means you're no longer where you were yesterday. You've made progress, right? If there wasn't a race, then there would be no expectation of actions. You can just believe and sit there and not even join the race. But anybody who joins a race is actually progressing. But it's the mercy that I want you to appreciate is Allah here did not put requirements of these people who truly believe. Let me tell you their qualities so you can become one of them. No, just have hope in this ayah. Just have hope that you can make it, that you can become of these people. And that's one of the themes inside Surah Al-Hadid, is Allah is saying to people whose hearts have become hopeless or hard and they've distanced themselves from Allah, that they can make their way back to Allah. They have a chance too. Right? So Allah talks about the elite believers and also the beginners that are making their way back to Allah, both of them in this surah. And that's a range that we often don't talk about, because we often think that Allah talks about the best people that are going to make it to heaven, and the rest of us are just going to get barbecued. It's not like that in the Quran. Allah wants people that are at the very, very basic level to also have hope, so they can work their way up, and the gates of heaven are vast open. Like they're wide open, and there's room for you. You shouldn't start thinking that there's no room for you. But don't, and so don't lose hope in Allah's mercy. And then on the other side, when you reach a certain level of maturity, then you know what? Why just aim to finish the marathon? Why not aim to come in first? Right? Yeah. It's so powerful that you don't tell everybody to come in first. You get everybody to at least start, right? And then when they've got their feet wet, they got a little bit in, now it's time to say, you know what? You have talent, you have potential. Like you kids, for example, right? When you first started, my whole job was to tell you, this is not so hard. You guys can do it. My job was not to tell you, by the way, you're going to have to learn about مضاف مضاف إليه مبتدا خبر متعلق بالخبر تقديم تأخير شرط جواب الشرط اسم موصول صيغة الموصول. You would have, how I was banging my head on the table a few minutes ago? You would have been doing that from the beginning. My point in the beginning was to just get you started. But then as we continue, I'm like, you guys are doing pretty good. I think you guys can even become teachers one day. I think you guys are going to be pretty amazing within a year. And now I'm setting the bar higher and higher. Yeah. But I didn't start like that. If I started like that, it would have crushed you. Right? Yeah, I would have quit. There you go. So That's what Allah is doing too. Allah is actually taking people step by step by step. And we shouldn't put like superimposing, intimidating goals on someone who's just starting so they quit before they ever started.
Yeah.
We shouldn't do that to people. We should learn from the sunnah of Allah. Like there's different ways of talking to different groups of people. You know, خاطب الناس على قدر عقولهم لكل مقال مقام. مقام مقال, sorry. They talk to people at their level. And every time and situation has the right words to use. So this is what Allah is teaching us here. And it's a remarkable teaching that, inshallah, helps us become more sensitive to how we share the message of our religion with those around us. Barakallahu li wa lakum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa
Assalamu
barakatuh.
alaikum, guys. Have a good day, inshallah. Remember, do your best and I will do the rest. There's always hope.